Hello friends and welcome to Shauna Stitches. I'm Shauna and this is my crafty podcast where I talk about all the things that I've been working on lately. This is episode number 68 and today is January 22nd, 2023. Thank you all for joining me today. I have a lot to talk about. It has been quite the January, quite the start to the year. I'll talk about more of the details later, but just know that I intended to record this podcast, over a week ago, and I woke up sick, and I'm still a bit sick. So if you hear that in my voice, if I have to edit out a bunch of coughing, I apologize. It is what it is, but we are here to try to record today. I'm drinking coffee out of a mug that you can't see. It's the Crazy Sock Lady mug, because I am a crazy sock lady. Okay, where to begin? I have two finished objects. The first one I finished so long ago, I had almost forgotten about it, but thank goodness for Ravelry notes and other notes. It is my very first ever pair of Desert Vista Dyeworks socks. If you can hear click-clacking in the background, that's Rudy walking around on the hardwood floors. I think he's gonna settle down now, I hope. Anyway, these are socks that I made, vanilla, and that's Cody click-clacking. I'm sorry, it's just 3 dogs in a house, it happens. Anyway, where were we? Desert Vista Dyeworks socks. This is the Laduree Macaroons. Pretend that had a French accent and French enunciation, because I don't know how you're supposed to say that, but there you go, Macaroons. It is a beautiful self-striping colorway, as most of the Desert Vista Dyeworks socks are, and this is my very first pair ever, and my first pair in the annual, this is the 9th annual something sock along. I don't know. There's a big long name. It's on Instagram. Speaking of, I always forget. You can find me on Instagram and Ravelry at Shauna Stitches. Pretty much anywhere else, but those are the main areas. You're watching me here on YouTube. Shauna Stitches there also. All of my show notes and Ravelry pages will be linked below. I keep pretty good notes. If for some reason you can't find what you're looking for, you still have questions, leave me a comment, shoot me a DM, a message, whatever you need to do. I will be more than happy to answer. So I knit these 64 stitches on a 2.25 millimeter needle. My preference is the 9-inch Chiagus. Love them. And yeah, not much else to say. Nice long leg. I did 10 rows less than I normally do. So I did a 20 round 2x2 cuff, 70 rounds for the leg, a extra long heel flap and gusset that accommodates my high instep. Then the gusset decreases, a normal foot to fit my size 9 foot, and a standard toe. Nice and easy. I did not make them matching because I wanted to save every last bit of yarn. This is what I have left. It's pretty substantial. It's been a while since I weighed it. I knit those vanilla socks in like 5 days. It was amazing. Anyway, I think I have 30 grams left. My plan is to save all of my leftovers throughout the year, and in December to knit a scrappy pair of socks. You're allowed to do 1 scrappy pair per year. And I know that with all those colors, I will have at least 24 stripes. So that's going to be kind of like an advent knit. And I think I will just do, 1 color repeat from each sock. But I guess that depends on how long the socks would need to be. I need to do some math on how many stripes are in here and all kinds of math, but that's for another day. Rudy wants to say hello. There he is. He's a pretty happy boy, but as of late, he is now both blind and deaf. So he kind of does what he wants. So I can't just call out to him and have him stop doing something because it's not going to happen. All right, so that was one finished object. We have another. This monstrous thing is the Pierre Shawl by Stephen West. It is knit out of Lion Brand Fisherman's Wool in 4 different colors. And so that is a worsted weight. The shawl itself is written for DK weight, but I used worsted because it's what I had in my stash. And I am doing very good at stash busting this year. So far, I have bought 0 yarn. That doesn't mean 0 yarn has come into my stash, but I have bought 0 yarn. So my mom, oh, I think I was showing you the backside. Yep, I sure was. Oh gosh, it's one of those days. All right, so there's the front side. That probably looks a little better. Anyhow, my mom wanted to knit the Pierre shawl because she thought it looked a little more friendly than the West Knits Mystery Knit Along from 2022 that she was knitting. She still hasn't sent me a picture of hers. I don't think she's gotten very far yet, but I look forward to seeing her colors. So I told her I would knit along with her as long as I could find yarn in my stash. So the white color is like a natural. The next light or next darker color is Oatmeal. That's this one that's striped here, and then that's all Oatmeal. And then the next one I think is like Natural Brown, something along those lines, or Heather Brown. And then this one is the opposite, Natural Brown or Heather. I think this must be Natural Brown. I don't love the Natural Brown, but I think with the way the shawl is written, where this one doesn't stripe in, it looks okay. It definitely frames it well, being a darker color. This turned out pretty large. I know I used 800 yards exactly. Like, when does that ever happen? And I think that was 391 grams, if I remember right. It's a fairly large shawl. Lots of room. I really haven't worn this or tried to wear it tucked around my neck. In fact, I just took it off the bed. It was blocking on, but I did try it around my shoulders, which I do like to wear them that way. But let's give this a shot. It's real big. So yes, totally doable as a around the neck shawl. This would be so warm and cozy under a coat if it was really cold out. And I'm really digging the natural colors lately. Normally I am very much a bold and bright, as you saw in my stripy socks. I love color, but there's something about this, the natural sheep colors and more of a natural wool. It's just really nice. I think when I ever buy yarn again, not that saying that I'll be buying Lion Brand Fisherman's Wool, but I think I could see more of the natural colors coming into my stash. They're just very wearable. They match everything. It's perfect. All right, so that is everything that I have finished. I do have a couple works in progress. Actually, before I get there, I meant to show you this when I showed you my other socks, but I have picked out my February color for Desert Vista Dyeworks. This is called My Speckled Heart. And I can pronounce that one. Isn't that amazing? So this will be my February cast on, and those will be on the needles February 1st. As I did for January, this will be my main priority until they're done, and then I'll work on other things. That's how I can make sure that I get these done every single month. All right, now we can move on to works in progress. I wasn't feeling well when I finished the Pierre shawl, and I did not want to go looking for yarn or needles or swatch or anything like that. So with the leftovers, I cast on the Pierre shawl. This is a DK weight cowl. What did I just call it? Did I call it the Pierre shawl? I don't know. I'm losing my mind. It's the Slumber cowl. I don't know what I just said. And so of course this is worsted weight, not DK. And it's a very simple 8-row repeat. When you get it as long as you need it to be, sorry for my needles banging around. These ends will be mattress stitched together, I believe. And allegedly, according to the pattern, I'll be able to wrap this around my neck twice. It is huge. So it's gonna be bunched up and wrapped up. Like, this is gonna be the warmest thing ever. So very excited about that. My needles are banging, I'm sorry. So I think I have 6.5 repeats to go. I'm hoping that what I have left in here is enough to do 6.5 more repeats plus the bind off and the mattress stitch. I think it should be, but I have so far just used up every last bit. So I have no more of the white left, no more of the oatmeal, and then hopefully no more of this. If I need to add more, I do have more of that dark brown. It'd be fine. And actually, if I have extra left over, not really left over, but if I still have extra after the 6.5 repeats, I might just make it a little bit bigger because my gauge seems to be, at least the row gauge seems to be a bit smaller than Stephen West's. If I didn't say that, this is a pattern by Stephen West, just came out. And so I might make it just a bit longer. So, oh goodness. I'm telling you what, it's a day. We just got started and it's a day. So anyway, I might make that a bit longer to make sure that I really can double it up because it seems to me there's no way to check that until it's mattress stitched together. And do I want to undo a mattress stitch, undo a bind off, and knit more rows? I sure the heck don't. So that's my plan. Next work in progress, I have made just a little progress. This is my second Freckled Whimsy Advent sock. So this is the 2022 skein. Doing good, plenty of yarn left. This is sock number 1, not on a blocker. It's the DRK Everyday Sock. It looks funny as heck, I know that, but trust me, it does fit my feet. So Glenn and I have kind of tried to get in the habit, we've been doing pretty good, about trying to play some kind of game every night after dinner on non-work days. And lately we've been playing either Rumacube or is it Rumacube? I'm not sure. But we've been playing that game and cribbage. So in between hands or moves, I'm able to get a few stitches in. It seems like per night I can get about 1 row done, so that's not bad. Eventually this sock will be done. I'm in no huge hurry. It's kind of nice to be able to knit on something just as we're playing a game. And it's been pretty mindless because as of yet, I'm not to the guess it increases. So eventually it will take a little bit more thought process than it does now. The next work in progress, and actually the last knitting work in progress I have to show you, is kind of a fun one. I have it in this really large knot knitting bag. It's from my realtor, but it works. This is a temperature sock. There it is in all its 20-day glory, because this is through the 20th of January. So I have a whole color palette set aside, including white. This is the coldest color, next warmest, I guess. Then it goes into gray. And you saw we have just a little bit of blue in there. So these are the 4 colors that you've seen. And we are doing pretty much a rainbow, except I have included pink because in my world, a rainbow needs pink. So there are all the colors. As I said, my Ravelry project page down below will have the temperature scale that I'm using. And actually, where did my sock go? I know it's in here. Where are you, sock? It's so small, it's lost. Okay, there we go. I did change it up just a little bit because it was, I think 42 and below. So any high temperature below 42 would have been this light gray. And I felt like I just wanted something to differentiate in case the high temperature was ever freezing or below. So I just added the white in. I was just gonna do white for the heels, cuffs, and toes. But as you can see, this is the gray, light gray, and then this is also light gray. So the unfortunate part about this, I live on the Oregon coast near the Oregon-Washington border, so way up there. And I use Wonderground History to get the weather. And the closest weather station that they have a history of is Portland, Oregon, which is a good 2+ hours away from me. It's way inland, and their temperatures and their weather in general, much different than ours. So that's kind of a bummer. This doesn't truly represent where I live, but it's as good as I could get. So I just had to settle for that. It is what it is. I was using the Weave and Steven method to deal with my ends, because as you can imagine, if you're changing colors every row, you're gonna have a lot of ends. And at the very beginning, I did have a lot of ends, but with the Weave and Steven, I was getting gaps along the change row, and I didn't like that. So I pulled those out and I went back to just a regular weave it in method, which if you get these big sections of color, that's not bad at all. But when you have a lot, it's made kind of a thick portion right here. I'm hoping that's gonna feel okay. It doesn't look bad on the outside of the sock. It just feels a bit thick. So time will tell if that was a good move or not. I am keeping the last yarn attached, and I don't knit on this every day because 5-6 rounds of a sock is not really a big deal to add. So I save up a couple days. That way, if I have this color, I need to add a new one, but the next following day is this again, I can just leave it attached, because if it's just a round or two, it's no problem to carry it up. Certainly it will make for less ends in the long run. But needless to say, it's gonna be a long time. I can't wait to have something other than gray. It's gonna make just the coolest striping pattern. I can already tell that, but I'm very excited to see how this is gonna work out. I will say I'm doing this toe up. That way my sock, if I started from the top down, I don't know, it would work out maybe, but it would be a lot more difficult to figure out when to stop the leg and go on to the foot. So by doing this, I know exactly where to put my heel in. The heel will be white. And then I can go up the leg as long as I need. I did the math. I think 365 obviously does not divide equally in half. It's like 182 would give you 364 twice. So you have one extra day. So either the second sock will include January 1st, or maybe just one sock will be longer. I haven't decided yet, but so one sock will be the first 6 months, the second sock will be the next 6 months. And that should work out, I think, except for February is short. Again, I will have to do math, but it's nothing that needs to be done today. So I'm really loving this. I can highly recommend. I was getting the urge again to do a temperature blanket. I probably have enough DK weight acrylic in my stash to have come up with a rainbow order. But realistically, I have tried those in the past. I have started them in the past, and it just is very hard to stay up on unless you make it a priority. And my little squirrel brain gets sidetracked easily. So this is doable. Even if I were to get behind 2 months, it would not take me long to catch up. So I love, love, love this. Highly recommend. Not my original idea either. If you have watched Mean Girls Knit, Rebecca, it was her idea. Maybe not even her original idea, but she's the one I learned it from. And so I'll give her credit for that. It's a wonderful idea. Next up, I knit a swatch because I'm a very good girl. This is Mohair held double. This is Mohair that Anna from ZebraYarns dyed for me, and it is gorgeous. So I have 4 skeins of this, which should be enough to knit the souffle top or souffle tee. It's the all mohair one where you hold 1 strand of mohair for the top and then 2 strands for the rest, and you have that nice little ruffle. It's kind of a dressier top. I'm very excited. But I knit this in the round just in case I need to frog it. How easy will frogging 2 strands of mohair be after it's been washed? I don't know, but just in case, I do have, I think this is 7 grams of backup yarn. Because as I mentioned probably every single podcast, I am not short and I don't like cropped. So I'll definitely be making it longer, and if at all possible, I would love to have long sleeves for that because I am always cold. So I got gauge on the suggested needles. I'll say gauge-ish because before I washed it, I had 1 too many stitches in the width for 4 inches. So it's supposed to be 20 stitches in 4 inches. I had 21, and then I washed it, and now I have like 19. So it's right there. My row gauge is perfectly in order, and I think with the bit of positive ease it's in there, if it ends up being a little bit more positive ease or a little bit less, it's going to be fine. So not worried about that. I plan on casting that on as soon as my Slumber cowl is done. So I cannot wait for that. It is probably the only thing keeping me going on the Slumber cowl. And going forward, definitely will be something that I do before I start starting a bunch of projects because finishing old ones is important. I still have a bunch of other old whips, and I'm going to slowly work on those, make them a priority. But when Anna sent me this in the mail, I needed to cast it on. And actually, I didn't cast it on as soon as I wanted to because I was sick and not feeling like looking for needles and stuff. But finally starting to get a little bit better, and I did that, and it worked out. I love when you get gauged the first time, or as I'm calling it, gauge-ish. Okay, that's all the works in progress, sort of future plans, finished object. Hello, editing Shauna here. Without a tripod, so let's see how this goes. We're going to make it short and sweet. I completely forgot to mention that I have a giveaway this episode. If you'll remember, I showed these recently. These were from Joan on Instagram. She was my swap partner for Christmas, and she sent us something special for the podcast. These are by Mandy's Makings, and it's the Fireside Friends colorway. This beautiful white, gray, brown with a lighter tan, kind of reminiscent of s'mores maybe. And this will be the giveaway for this episode. If you want to be entered to win, we're going to do United States only because shipping's ridiculous. But if you want to win this, let's go ahead and tell me which friend, you don't have to like link anyone, but just tell me who would be your Fireside friend that you would want to knit these with, and use the word Fireside Friend in your comment. So Fireside Friend, I will put that on the screen so that you have exactly how it needs to be spelled out. And the next time I record, we will find out who the winner is. All right, back to the regularly recorded podcast. I have one more thing kind of exciting to show you. At the beginning of the year, but not on January 1st, I think it was January 4th, I decided that in addition to my intention of using yarn from stash and knitting out more than I bring in, another good intention for me would be to spin at least 5 minutes a day. So I set out, my plan is to try and do that for 100 days in a row. And I'm hoping that once I get to that 100-day mark, that it just has become a habit to do. And I set the 5 minutes because there are some days, work days for me, are 12 hours long. That doesn't include my commute. That doesn't include if I have to stay longer, anything like that. So it's a long day. Between showering and eating and those sort of necessities that we have to do, I don't often have a lot of time. So I've only had 2 work days since the beginning of the year, and we're about to get into that. But on those days, I would spin before work, and I think I got about 20 minutes, so not bad. I've never only spun the 5 minutes, but in my head, I can squeeze in 5 minutes. And if that's all that I have, it at least gets me to the wheel. So this braid was already on my wheel at the beginning of the year. I started this November 22nd and started it and didn't touch it again. So my wheel has sat untouched for months and months and months. My fiber stash untouched for months. And that is why I set the intention of spinning, because I need to use my fiber stash, or I should say I want to. I don't need to, but I want to. And I want to use my wheel. You know, it wasn't a inexpensive investment, and it's something that I do like doing, and I really like my hand spun. So anyway, there is the first braid that I finished. I think it took me 12 more days. So 12 days into my intention, I finished this bobbin. I think it was 115, 118 grams. So just about 4 ounces of very fine singles. I'm spinning these singles to 55 wraps per inch. And this is the second braid, which is blowing out. It is very bright yellow, but there are a lot of other colors in this. There's some green and some pink. And this is the first time I'm ever doing a combo spin where each ply is going to be a separate, or each bobbin is going to be a separate ply of the yarn. So I'm spinning 3 separate fibers. This will be the third one. And once they are all on bobbins, they will get plied together. I cannot wait to see what they look like. You know, what you see in the unspun fiber is just so different than what ends up on the bobbin. And once you get these unbraided, there are often many little surprises in there, extra pops of color, colors blend. And so all these together are gonna make something. And I'm aiming for this to be a fingering to sport weight. Probably this will be more on the fingering side. And if all goes according to plan, I'm hoping that these will be the flowers of the pressed flowers cardigan. Having 3 braids means it's more than 300 grams, which spinning yardage is definitely different than you would get with commercially spun yarn yardage, but I think that should be enough. I didn't really tell you what fibers these are because I don't know. I think this one might be Cheviot. I don't know if I say that right, but Cheviot, or however you pronounce that, is a breed of sheep. This one I was thinking was also Cheviot, but then I remembered, and I of course cannot remember the dyer, but I found their booth at Off and I had spun something from them before. Don't remember what the blend was, but I liked it and I loved the colors. They were similar to this, but a lot more blush in the colors than yellow. And this one, if I remember correctly, is what they were calling their farm blend. So I don't know what anymore what those breeds would be, but we're gonna see how it all works out. They're spinning pretty similarly. If I had to take a guess, I would say that the micron count of this is just a bit higher than this one because it seems like it takes less hairs. What's the right terminology? Less, hairs, I guess, of the wool I guess fiber sounds nicer, less fibers of this wool to make that 55 wraps per inch than it did of this one. And that could just be maybe because I'm getting more used to it. I don't know. Maybe it is Chevy. I'm not sure. This one I do know it's the Noob or Nube. I always thought it was Noob, but then I've heard people say Nube. This is 100% merino. I don't think it's superwash, but I could be wrong. It's quite soft, so hopefully all of these will work up together really well. Here we are at my wheel. You can't really see it too well, but you can see the bobbin, and here is the fiber that I have pre-drafted and ready to spin. Don't worry, we will not be sitting here while I spin all this. That would take a very long time. I have a Lendrum DT, which stands for double treadle. I know you can't quite see it all here, but take my word for it. I'm set up where my wheel normally is, and it's kind of a weird spot in our house. It's between the living room. You can see where I normally sit right there on my chair, and our dining room is behind me, and then our kitchen is behind me that way. So it's just kind of a weird little place with the way the couch comes out. It's protected enough, and if we happen to be watching TV or something, I can still see that because it's that way. So I've never tried to talk and record while I'm spinning, I don't think. So we'll see if I can do this. As I mentioned, I'm spinning at about 55 wraps per inch, which I check using my Trinkles little spinning gauge, and it has these notches. So you probably can't see that, but that's the 55 wraps per inch little notch. And I'm sure my spinning varies for sure anywhere between 50 and 60, but probably more variance than that. But I like to spin very fine. The reason I thought to do this was because I've been seeing more people posting videos about their spinning journey, and I've really been enjoying that content. And as I mentioned earlier, getting back into spinning, or just making sure I'm actually using my spinning wheel and fiber, is something that I definitely wanted to do. So I think it helps if there's any new spinners out there and you just want to see kind of what it looks like to spin. This is my version. I do what seems to be called continuous back for my drafting style. So that's my backhand is my right hand, and my forward hand, the smoothing hand, is my left hand. And so I go back a little bit. I really am kind of drafting with my backhand more than I am with my front hand, and that works for me. You can also do short forward, which is where you just take this front hand and you leave your backhand pretty stationary, but I don't find that I'm as consistent that way. So this is what I like to do. I really want to, I say learn, I understand the concept, but I really want to practice more long draw. I think the next thing that I will be focusing on spinning when I'm done with this spin is some bats that I have in my stash from the very first fiber festival I ever went to, which is off the Oregon Flock and Fiber Festival. And that was when I bought my wheel. So I've had it for a very long time. I don't remember quite what the colors are, but I don't think it would be colors or a preparation that I would choose now. But I remember buying it, and it just felt so special and luxurious and almost unattainable. And it was a splurge for me to buy them, although looking back, I don't think they were terribly expensive. But when you're getting into a new fiber hobby and you don't know if you'll ever actually be able to use those things, things can seem maybe more expensive than they are to someone who has more experience, and you realize that it's worth it because what you're going to get, the enjoyment in spinning, the time spinning, and the end product, which would be the yarn and or the project made out of the yarn. So I'm able to understand those things a little bit better now and have a little bit more faith in my abilities. That being said, long draw still scares the bejesus out of me. I definitely need a lot more practice in long draw. So that'll be good to use that finally out of my stash and to see what kind of practice we can get. I think it's about time to move my guide here. What else to say? I've been spinning for about 5 years now, but as I mentioned, I will go months and months without spinning. I would not consider myself to be a very technical spinner. Although that being said, I do prefer a thin yarn and one without a lot of variance if possible. So I'm not into art yarns. I don't really feel that I have a use for them. Even though I do have a loom, I don't generally use that, and I don't know, it's just not a look that I'm going for. That may change someday. The nice thing about the Lendrum, not that I'm necessarily trying to sell you on one, although I will say it's my only wheel, my first wheel. I do have an electric eel wheel, but an actual traditional wheel, it's my only one. And I feel like it can do everything that I possibly could want it to do. I got the complete package, which has the regular flyer, the fast flyer, which is what I have on it now, and a plying flyer or plying head. And the plying head is what can be used for art yarns because it has a much larger orifice, so you can fit those really chunky, you know, beehives and that sort of thing through there. So what else? I've really enjoyed it. I keep thinking, oh, I'd sure like another wheel, but you know, then I come to my senses and I'm like, why would I want or need another wheel? I do have a fair number of bobbins for this one, and I just ordered some more, but I don't think, first of all, I don't really have a lot of room for extra wheels in my house, and up till now, I haven't been very good about regularly spinning on my wheels, so one is enough for me. I think it's just one of those things where like you see something else and, you know, as I've said before, the FOMO. So I really do enjoy this. I would definitely buy another one if something were to happen to this one. It has been very consistent the whole 5 years that I have had it. I really haven't had to do any major maintenance at all. Just put a little oil on it every now and then. But that's about it. I don't know how many braids of fiber I've spun in the last 5 years. I don't know, probably less than a dozen, which isn't a lot. And I'm hoping to change that this year. I was a little on the fence about if I spin more yarn, then I'm adding more yarns into my stash, and that's more yarn to use. But as I mentioned, I have quite a fiber stash as well. And if I ever want to buy yarn or fiber again, I should really use what I have so that I can make some room for new things. And as with any craft, as you start to learn, you realize more what you're drawn to, whether it be colors or fiber contents, superwash versus non-superwash, natural or dyed, just all kinds of things. So obviously with experience, you hone in exactly what it is that you want to do in the future. And I would like to make room for that in my life for both knitting and spinning, and to get things that I'm really loving at the moment or what I'm drawn towards. And I do love having a stash, but we're working on getting it under control. All right, well, I think that's about all I have to say about spinning. As I mentioned, this is the second ply of what will be a 3-ply yarn, and I will keep you guys updated on the progress that I make. If you're not following me on Instagram, I have been posting my daily spinning. Today is day 17 in a row, and it really feels, like I said, like such a, not landmark, I don't know, it feels good. It feels good to be making that intention and making it happen. Before I go, I will mention, because I forgot, I'm wearing my spinning apron, and this is not a like only for spinning apron. It's a vinyl apron that I found on Amazon, and it is so wonderful because I leave the fiber sitting here on my lap, and before I had this apron, I would walk away and my clothes would just be covered in little bits of wool. And having a vinyl apron makes it so nice because the fiber slides right over it, and it doesn't ever cling to the apron, and if it did, it wouldn't be on my clothing. So I always wear this when I spin, as weird as that might be. All right, well, thank you for sitting here and spinning with me for a while. If you have any spinning questions, please let me know. As I said, I am not an expert, but I will point you in the direction of a few people who I do consider to be experts. That would be Rachel Smith of Wool and Spinning, and Jillian of Jillian Eve. They all are very knowledgeable. They're people that I have enjoyed watching spin over the years. And yes, if you're a spinner, I hope you'll make some spinning content because I'm really enjoying that. And thank you for joining me. So, life stuff. I mentioned at the end of last year that I was getting ready to have surgery on January 4th. I did. I believe it went okay. I've been kind of elusive as to what kind of surgery or procedure it was, but I'm just going to go ahead and let you guys know because I feel like not enough people talk about this stuff. It feels very much, when it happens to me anyway, like nobody goes through this, and I know that is not the case. So Glenn and I have been trying to get pregnant for the last 4 years, more than 4 years. And of course, COVID happened sort of smack dab in the middle of that, and it delayed us getting any kind of special care or specialists. And so I just kind of thought, well, you know, I'm not getting any younger. It must just be that. So I can't remember when. It's been over a year probably. I finally went to a local specialist who they have limited resources where I'm at. And they checked everything. Everything was fine. So they sent me to a different specialist, which I had to go into Portland for, like I said, 2.5 hours away. And they did more testing. Again, everything was fine. And as much as you want everything to be fine, also, it really sucks when they can't find a reason, because the term they like to use is unexplained fertility or infertility, unexplained infertility. That makes no sense, right? There has to be a reason. Even if it is just age, there should be something. So finally they did one of their tests and they found that I had polyps and fibroids. I'm not sure. I think it was just one in my uterus. So the doctor told me that that is something that would prevent pregnancy. So January 4th was my surgery to get those removed, and I've never had anesthesia. That was quite the thing. I really wasn't nervous. I don't know why. I just kind of just deal with things as they come. I mean, certainly getting nervous is not beneficial. It doesn't change anything. It doesn't help anything. So, I just remember they put it's like the oxygen things that go up your nose. They put those around my ears and into my nose, and the anesthesiologist told me it's going to be spicy. And in my head, I just remember like taking a deep breath and wondering to myself, oh, will I smell like a spicy smell? I had no idea. And then like that's literally the last thing I remember. And the next thing I remember is being wheeled back into my room to get ready. So when the doctor came and saw me afterwards, she said that there were quite a few more polyps than they had thought. So they removed all those. So hopefully things should be good. And I'm in the process of trying to transfer my care back from that specialist, which is so far away, to the closer one, because I think there should be nothing to prevent that. So surgery went fine. Took a couple days to recover. I went back to work on, it was either the 8th or the 9th, whatever Monday was. It would have been the 9th. So I went back to work on the 9th and the 10th. And the 12th would have been Thursday. And I was going to record that day because I was back to work on Friday. Woke up, felt terrible. And I had a sore throat. I had a fever. I didn't think a ton of it, but I did take a COVID test and it was negative. So I called into work and said, just so you know, I'm not feeling good. I might not be there tomorrow. Woke up Friday feeling even sicker, still had a fever, took a COVID test, and it was positive. So January has been surgery recovery, COVID recovery. So tomorrow is, again, my first day back at work, a whopping day 3 for the month of January being back at work. And I'm just wondering to myself, how can I make it through 12 hours? Because to be quite honest, the fatigue is something else. I seem to have had a pretty bad case of COVID. My husband currently has it. I unfortunately gave it to him. And his is quite mild. He never had a fever. He has a cough, stuffy nose, very much like a cold. For me, I had this splitting headache that when I coughed or blew my nose was excruciating. Like literally thought my head was going to explode. Topped with a fever that medication wasn't bringing down, and just complete fatigue. So this is the first day in over a week I've worn normal clothes. I've had to leave the house today. I had to go get groceries. And needless to say, I am starting to feel better. I'm getting a little bit more energy, but I am still not 100%. I don't know how long it will take to feel like 100%, but there for a while, I was starting to wonder if I would ever feel good again. So I can tell you that is starting to come back on the upswing. I'm very happy about that. Definitely ready to get all of the bad things out of the way January, and the rest of the 11 months are going to be fabulous. So that's my plan anyway. I'm sure the universe will tell me it's a plan. And I will talk to you guys soon. Thank you so much for being here with me today. I really can't appreciate you all enough. Thank you for all the well wishes that you sent me for the surgery, and those of you that saw the announcement that I made on Instagram. Thank you. Thank you. I have no doubt that all of those happy thoughts do help in the long run. All right. I will talk to you soon. Bye. Hello, friends, and welcome to Shauna Stitches. I'm Shauna, and this is my crafty podcast where I talk about all the things that I've been working on lately. I forgot my coffee. Cody, lay down. Lay down. Cody, no. Cody, no.